And I want to thank our guest here for the next couple of segments, who wears a number of different roles in the community. And maybe first and foremost, my boss as chair of the board of directors at the Worcester Regional Chamber of Commerce. Welcome, Kate Sharry.
Thank you very much for having me today.
Well, Kate, and we want to talk a little bit about your role at the chamber. You're also a board member of the Worcester Business Development Corporation, and there was a recent article in the Worcester Business Journal that talked about the diversity or lack thereof on boards in the city, corporate boards, nonprofit boards, and others, and how that's changing, which is a good thing. And we want to talk a little bit about that, but maybe first we could talk about your business. You're the owner and president of Group Benefit Strategies. Mm-hmm. And maybe you could tell the viewers, what is that?
Sure. Well, Group Benefit Strategies, we've been in business for about 25 years, municipal health insurance consulting firm. So we consult for over 200 municipalities in Massachusetts, cities, towns, school districts, water districts, even small entities like veteran services. Mm-hmm. Most of our clients are self-funded, which means they hold their all risk. So City of Worcester is one of our larger clients. So we go in and we help manage all of their health insurance benefits. We work somewhat as a liaison between the city administration, the unions, and the carriers to help negotiate benefits, put together disease management programs, manage their reinsurance. So it's a company that I bought from my father about 6 years ago, so I've kind of grown up in the industry.
And you worked for the company in different forms over the years.
I have. I started by answering the phones and opening the mail, and I think I've worked just about every job within the company, and now I'm lucky enough to be owner. So I've kind of seen the industry change over the years, and happy to be a part of that.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably few industries that have seen such dramatic change and constant change in kind of the healthcare, and I think having worked at the municipal level and then certainly at the state level working with municipalities, I can tell you, that complexity and the changing dynamics, whether it be in Washington or in Boston, for municipalities who are worried about, plowing the streets, public safety, parks, water and sewer, the library, it's very difficult to stay up on how quickly things are changing, the array of products, the array of companies, and that's the expertise you bring to the table.
So the health insurance budget is usually the second largest line item in a municipal budget. We've seen the trends go from anywhere from 5% medical and prescription trend up to 18%. So really it's what can we bring to the table, what kind of solutions can we bring to the table other than just shifting costs to the employees, changing a copay by $10, putting in a deductible in place. So while that's important to do in order to keep up in line with the private sector to help, because it is a good way to help control costs, but one of the programs can we offer that will add benefits to employees to help them manage their out-of-pocket costs, whether it be a targeted disease management program or a smart shopper program. One of the biggest challenges that municipalities have is getting people to really pay attention to how they're spending their health insurance dollars, mm-hmm. and to have people really want to participate in that, not only for the benefit of their health, but to understand that it impacts the entire budget. In order, if you keeping the health insurance costs down, then that means jobs. That means another firefighter's position. That means another teacher's position. So it's really important to be kind of a part of that change.
And for business communities and taxpayers at the municipal level, whether it be business owners or homeowners, to the extent that a municipality can control costs, that's less pressure on the budget, less pressure when it becomes tax time to pass on the cost.
Absolutely, absolutely. And but also making people feel a part of the conversation. So health insurance changes have to be negotiated, mm-hmm. With unions. So part of my job is to come to the table and to kind of help make those deals. That's the part of my job that I like. I don't like walking in and saying, here's a 10% renewal or here's a 15% renewal. But when I can walk in and say, here's the renewal, but here's some solutions, and to kind of, if we can walk out of the room at the end of the day with a solution that kind of makes everyone happy, then I know that I've done my job.
And this, just curious your thoughts. I mean, if you've got health insurance costs that are going up 5 or 10%, that's money out of someone's pocket or everyone's pocket. It's out of the municipality's pocket, it's the employee's pocket, that leaves less money if there's a conversation about a pay raise or 1 or 2%. So increasingly it seems, in some cases, not every, that many of the unions recognize they need to play a role in this kind of problem solving.
Absolutely. And also, we talk about the OPEB liability too. So I think that, as municipal workers, especially a long time ago, were hired saying, okay, I want a good benefits package, knowing that I might be taking a little bit less of a salary. I could go into the private sector and make more money. But I'm in this for the long haul. I'm dedicated to this community. I'm dedicated to this teaching position, or being a firefighter, or being a member of the police department. And that benefit compensation package really can go a long way. Also with retirement benefits too. So when we talk about making changes, it shifts the OPEB liability too. So anything that we're doing right now to help reduce costs for active employees, that not only helps the retirees in the long run, but it's going to help a city or a town too.
Right, and and most of our employees, most public employees I found are committed. As you said, they want to do a good job. But certainly, salaries are competitive now in many cases with the private sector, and benefit costs have gone up. And you mentioned OPEB. That's the whole issue of municipalities or city or town's obligation to fund the retirements.
Right.
And there's been a lot of discussion about municipalities across the country not funding that at the proper level, and some of the financial risk that represents.
Right, I think it seems a very daunting task to some municipalities to have to fund that, but it's really more of a long-term solution of trying to control healthcare dollars right now while coming up with a strategic plan for kind of chipping away at that liability over time. Some cities and towns that I deal with kind of don't want to deal with that, but I work with some that really have put a lot of strategic planning into it and a lot of effort into helping control those costs.
Yeah, well, I know that's an issue that City Manager O'Brien was very aggressive on, and City Manager Augustus continues to be. And just locally, I just read it in the Telegram recently that the city manager settled a couple of contracts, and I'm sure the health insurance piece was a part of that. So congratulations to both of you on that.
A lot of work that goes into that. I really applaud the city. Kathy Johnson does an incredible job of really helping manage the health insurance benefits. To work with someone who truly understands not only the culture of her employees, but also the landscape of health insurance, really makes my job a lot easier too. And I think another thing that really makes my job easier is the fact that right here in downtown Worcester, we have Tufts, we have Fallon, we have Harvard Pilgrim, and we have Blue Cross and Blue Shield, all within a few blocks of each other. So not only working with those relationships, but being able to go over and pop into the office and discuss an issue face to face really goes a long way.
In a slow changing world, but we're seeing some real progress. You were recently part of a cover story in the Worcester Business Journal about female representation on boards and leadership in the community, and kind of the history and how, in a good way, that's changing. And I want to acknowledge, for those that weren't with us in the last segment, you are the chair of the board at the Worcester Regional Chamber of Commerce. So we're thankful to have your presence there on the board of the Worcester Business Development Corporation. But it was an interesting article, and we were talking how you've worked at the company you now own, and through that have seen some change. But what has been your experience kind of in the workplace and where we are today?
Well, it's funny, my experience in my workplace and in my industry has been vastly different than the boards that I've been involved on in Worcester. Just the change that we've seen in Worcester, and even just the dynamics of and the diversity of our board at the chamber is just so much different than what I experience at work. Sometimes I'll walk into a meeting. Some of my clients, they're governed by boards, so I'll walk into a meeting and I'll be the only woman in the room. And it was quite intimidating at first when I started to go out and service clients face to face, because when I had grown up in my workplace, we had been a lot of women in the workplace and with a lot of support by men. So going out with those face-to-face and client interactions, being that only woman in the room, intimidating, and it really took me a while to get used to. I really hadn't ever really paid attention to it the lack of diversity that can be in a room sometimes. And now with the series of the Worcester Business Journal really shining a light on how important it is to have female leadership, to have female representation at all levels, really.
Yeah, the corporate governance, at the chamber, I mean, we've been very purposeful with the executive board to try to look at, gender, also racial diversity on the board, and also from a perspective of businesses. We're lucky to this day to have some pretty significant and large companies in Worcester and in central Massachusetts, but we also want to make sure, especially most of our members are small business, that we have small business owners who are on our board. And interestingly enough, when you dig down, particularly in the city of Worcester, there's a higher percentage of small business owners who are women, minority, immigrant owned. So you want to make sure they have a voice and at the table, because it just adds different perspective and makes people kind of think in a way that is reflective of the population.
Absolutely, and to me that is equally, if not more important. I talked in the Worcester Business Journal in the article about having to sit at a table and bringing forth different a feminine energy versus a masculine energy, and how I don't want to sit there and think about that. I want to sit there and think about what do we need to get done today.
Right.
So, and being a small business owner, I think that has made my position as board chair even more unique, because we sit around the room at the chamber board and at the WBDC with representation for some really large legal firms, from some large banking firms, some really large corporations in Central Mass. So to be there as a business owner of 11 employees really makes it special for me and unique, and quite a privilege.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, small business owners, they're, the greeter, the cook, the bottle washer, and we're some of the bigger companies that very kind of specialized and siloed, and you can learn a lot, but also you can kind of, you may be able to knock down a perception that every company is as resourced or as specific as them. Right,
and knowing that my voice is just as important as a larger corporation, and being part of the Worcester business community, that means a lot.
Yeah, and in that regard, you're only as good as your last at bat, and one of the things that we're trying to do, and you've played a role in it, not only as board chair but as a participant, but the chamber runs the Worcester Women's Leadership Conference. We have the Women's Information Network. These are about mentorship, empowerment, people, not encouraging people, women in the business community to kind of get involved, take that step up, mentorship, support each other, advocate for them in positions of leadership, and you've been a part of that as well.
And that's what I've learned along the way too, is the importance of that, of being able to lean on other women in leadership positions. Sue Mailman, who was a prior board chair, of being able to pick up the phone and call her, bounce some ideas off of her. I mean, that's really important to me, and now I view that as that's my responsibility. To kind of put a hand back to the next woman in line too, to help her along, because we're all there to support each other. So you mentioned the Worcester Women's Leadership Program. We're going into our ninth year.
Yep.
Next year we'll be coming up on the 10th anniversary. So I think some big things going on. We have grown in size, and we had about 700 attendees last year.
Right.
And it's the type of day that you walk away feeling so energized and so positive about the leadership and the good things that are going on in Worcester.
Yeah, I mean, it's become one of our most successful programs and largest in terms of attendance. And it's people who are employees of some of our chamber member businesses are eligible to go. Non-chamber members can come. They pay a little bit. They pay more, which is an incentive for them to become chamber members. But in addition to that, monthly we have the Women's Information Network, where we have speakers and a lunch that people can participate in, and so it's important that we provide those programs.
Absolutely important, and that's before I was a board member of the chamber. That's kind of where I started with my involvement with the chamber, was on the Women's Leadership Committee. So it's kind of where I got my feet wet there, and really realized that I wanted to be a part of it, be a part of the board, and be a part of everything that's going on in Worcester. Not only the initiatives that are there for leadership for women, but really just a part of the business community too.
Great. Well, Kate, thanks for being with us. Kate Sharry, who is the owner and president of Group Benefit Strategies.